Welcome to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where we feature top leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry with your host, Drew Hendricks. Now, let's get started with the show.
Drew Thomas Hendricks here. I'm the host of the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where I talk with leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry. Past guests of Legends Behind the Craft include John Cochis of Beck Family Estates, Barry Waite of Tamber Bay, and James King of King Family Vineyards. If you haven't listened to these yet, you got to check them out and subscribe. Today's episode is sponsored by Barrels Ahead. At Barrels Ahead, we work with you to implement a one-of-a-kind marketing strategy, one that highlights your authenticity, tells your story, and connects you with your ideal customers. In short, we help wineries and craft beverage producers unlock their story to unleash their revenue. Go to barrelsahead.com today to learn more. Talking about Barrels Ahead, today I've got Bianca Harmon on the show again. Bianca is one of our direct-to-consumer marketing strategists. If you want to level up your direct-to-consumer game, got to give her a call. How's it going, Bianca?
It's going good. Thanks, Drew. Excited to talk to Jerry today and learn all about this fruit wine coming from New Jersey.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. So today's guest, as Bianca says, Jerry Amabile. Jerry's a founding member and president of Cream Ridge Winery, located in Cream Ridge, New Jersey. Now, Cream Ridge Winery was established in 1988. At the time, it was the 7th winery in New Jersey, making it one of the oldest. Today, the team at Cream Ridge is doing some really exciting things with their wines. They're pushing the envelope not only with native varietals, but with fruits from their orchards. Welcome to the show, Jerry.
Hey, thanks, Drew. Thanks, Bianca. It's great being here.
Oh, it's awesome to have you on. So, Jerry, I got to know, how did you guys get started? How did Cream Ridge Winery come to fruition?
My mother and father, at the ripe old age of 58, decided to put all the retirement savings on the line, including their house, and open up the 7th winery in the state. It was a lot of hills and valleys. But Dad always made wine in the basement of our home growing up because I am half Italian and half Irish, and that was the thing to do.
Ah, sounds good. Now, how did they settle on Cream Ridge?
Actually, we had a small little winery in the town that I actually am living in right now in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. And my dad was a winemaker there with his best friend. And he was a developer. And we opened up a small winery out there in 1979. Dad got his chops. But the long commute of 3.5 hours each way took its toll. And then the winery industry in New Jersey was changing, that if you had 6 acres of land, you could build a winery and you can start selling wine. So at that time, my parents stumbled on that property on the way down to the New Jersey shore, and the rest is history.
Oh, wow. Tell us a little bit about this property and what makes it special.
It's a beautiful route to take down the shore without having to get on any major roads. It's Cream Ridge came up with the name from cream of the crop. So it's a beautiful sandy loam soil. It's right in the middle of horse country. We actually have a 400-acre farm across from us that the Mullen family owns. So it's an absolutely beautiful location. But back in 1988, there wasn't as many people drinking wine as your generation is now. So if you can just imagine me standing out on the middle of the highway wearing a grape outfit, that's what I had to deal with back then.
the precursor to the sign spinner.
Oh, you are not kidding. But back in the 80s, it was long hair, perm, and a mustache. So it was just a great thing all around, Drew and Bianca. Just a great thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Tell me about the acreage and what you have planted.
We all started with some varietals, and then French American hybrids, Chambourcin and Seyval grapes, and then Concord, Niagara, Fredonia. And as the years kind of developed over the years, when we lost crops, because we really weren't in the growing business, we were in the winemaking business, and we had to have grapes to grow. Ones that we lost, we would replant with Fredonia, which they would consider the super Concord. So it's got a lot of a flair of a Concord, but have a more of a velvety finish. Doesn't have to be as sweet of a grape. And with that, We have about 6 acres of grapes. We have a couple acres of plums. We're raising our own bees. We just started planting blackberries. We went permaculture 10 years ago this summer. So we haven't used herbicides or pesticides since then. So we're really more of a showcase of what you can do. It's not much of a risk level for us than if we were to actually lose our grapes to a bad winter. So we've leaned on and partnered with other growers throughout New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, California, depending on who we know, and we had a lot of developed a lot of relationships over the years. So we have a nice rhythm in place, and the wines are just spectacular. And I'm not just being biased.
No, the lineup looks stellar. I mean, talking about Fredonia for a bit.
Yeah,
your 99 Rose.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's a varietal I'm not familiar with. To some of us out west who really don't have access to that varietal, describe it and kind of give us a little insight there.
Yeah. So, my father always called it the super Concord. So, Concord grape, Welch's grape juice. That is the Eastern grown Labrusca variety. And that's the red grape. The white grape would be Niagara. The pink grape in that family of Labrusca is pink Catawba. And then pretty much the grandfather of them all is what they would call Fredonia. And it's got a lot more of a flair that it's not, you don't have to feel like you're drinking communion wine. You're now drinking something that's got more of I like to say a lavender finish. So we love blending it with a couple of our sangrias to lightly sweeten it up. Our 99 Rose, because it's predominantly Fredonia, is lightly sweet. It's just got a great finish. It's easy drinking wine. And, unlike the West Coast, palates are different in every region of the country. In our area, especially the younger generation, they like drinking something a little bit lightly sweet. And that is generally speaking where we introduce people to drinking wine, because if they want to drink red wine, they tend to want to have something a little sweeter when they're younger. And as you develop and drink more, just like drinking coffee, you start having it with milk and cream and sugar. You tend to go drier to the varietals like Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Sangiovese, and so forth.
Yeah, it is a good gateway. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Now actually that kind of leads me into kind of your lineup. You've got an impressive lineup of wines that span both from like the dry wines to the sweet wines to some, like you got a sparkling Brichetto, which is one of my favorite. I love a good Brichetto.
Isn't it great? It's a great Sunday morning breakfast wine. That's what I like to call it. Yes.
And then just pure fruit wines. I mean, that's talk to me about your fruit wines in addition to your grape wines.
Yeah, Dad was considered one of the pioneer and grandfather of fruit wines. And when God made grapes, He made the perfect fruit to turn into wine. It has the perfect amount of pH and acidity. Well, you can make wines from other fruits. It just is a little bit more difficult because certain things are missing. Some have too much sugar. Some have too much pH or acidity. So you got to balance that off in order to get it to a wine where we like to keep our fruit wines at around 11%. So it's easy drinking. If you kept it at 14 or 16, then you can't have it with a meal. So say, for instance, our mangoes, we source them out of Costa Rica. Our mango wine's at 11%. It's lightly sweet. It's at about 3.5% residual sweetness. I only take that wine with me when I go out for Thai or Indian food. I don't have to then try to pair it with a white or a red. And because when you're sweating profusely and bleeding out of your eyes because of the spice of those kinds of cuisines, mango wine it takes care of everything. And so that is the only wine I take with me. No doubt about it. It just is so great. And of course, I always say, if you're drinking a wine made from our fruit wines and they're 100% fruit, if you like mangoes, you're going to love the mango wine. If you like cranberries, and our state is one of the largest producers of cranberries in the country, we have to make cranberry wine. You're going to love our cranberry wine. It's not so sweet where you don't taste the tartness, because you want to taste the tartness of a cranberry. So you are literally tasting 100% cranberry wine. It's just fantastic. It's easy drinking. And then if you want to pair it with food, then we can go that route as well. But for me, like cranberry wine, I love it as a great sipping wine, especially if we still have it in the late spring, which I still have it in stock. Probably it'll be out in another month or so. It's just delightful. It's just delightful.
So what's the process like when you're bringing in this mango juice from Costa Rica? I mean, how are you finding these people? How's it, the process at all?
Well, you know what? That's a great question, Bianca. When we first opened up, mangoes weren't even available in the supermarket. So that wasn't even a part of vocabulary. In fact, I don't think my parents even knew what a mango was 34 years ago. Perhaps I didn't either. And so as the industry developed, especially the natural food and organic industry and the supermarket retail industry grew, more and more became available. Your relationships developed from the fruits that you were buying at the local level. All of a sudden opened up to at the international level. So you start to wonder, if I can make a wine made from strawberries grown down the street, what about mangoes? And then again, all of a sudden opened up, what about passion fruit? Wow. And the only way is to bring in the juice, convert it into wine, and then see what it tastes like. And when you do, and you hit it out of the park, and our tropical fruits, I don't know anybody in the world that's making a tropical fruit wine with effervescence, made from mangoes and passion fruit. I just don't know anybody doing it. And when you taste it, you're like, oh my God, I've never had anything like this. This is spectacular. And that to me is the essence of wine. There's so many varieties out there of great varietals. Well, you can make other things too. And that experience for a wine connoisseur, well, it opens their mind. And for me, it's the paradigm shift of a lifetime. Yes. And that's what I love. I love seeing that when that happens at the winery and what I do at farmers markets.
I can imagine the general consumer coming in. A lot of people may be a little skeptical about the fact that there's fruit wine and it can't possibly be good.
That's right.
Just a little bit of a prejudice because we're used to just grape wines.
That's right.
What is that? I mean, tell me, you must have had a couple stories of some aha moments where someone comes in and their life was just turned around and they.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I grew up in the wine industry. I left for 25 years and went into the organic and natural specialty food business. So many of my friends worked for a small little company called Whole Foods. I don't know if you heard of them. But I grew up with them. They all became leaders in the industry. And I can remember, and we were all foodies, and we all loved wine. And I love my Brunello de Montalcinos just like everybody else does. But I always said, hey, we at our winery, and we don't sell wholesale. We make wines from fruit. I could never drink that. And then over the years, that you start, and especially in the last 7 to 10 years, you started to see them at Whole Foods. And then I would get a call from my buddy and go, oh my God, Jerry, now I understood what you were talking about. I said, I know. I said, it's possible to make a wine from another fruit. And then the experience, it kind of is, it's mind altering. And yes, like I said before, it's a paradigm shift. And I love it. And I have the stomach for it when people come in and just say, I only drink reds. And I say, I know you do. And we're going to taste our reds. But then I'm going to want you to taste a fruit wine. And do you trust me? And I look them straight in the eye. And they'll say, yeah. I said, well, that's where your first mistake is. But we're going to walk down this road. And then I have them. And odds are they're going to buy, maybe a Cab Blend or a Cab Franc or a Sangiovese. But they're buying a fruit wine because that it was part of that experience. And that, my friends, if there's anything you can take away in the wine industry, it's so unique because wine is a memory. You don't like when you're on your 21st birthday or when you got engaged or when you had your first incredible meal in Italy, you remember the wine that you had. It's a memory. You don't say, oh, I can remember my first glass of vodka. I don't think so. People come into our winery when they were 21 years old, and now they're in their late 50s, and they'll still buy that one particular wine that they don't drink that kind anymore. They don't drink that sweeter wine, but they buy it because it's their memory and their senses, and they'll sip it and go, God, I remember that. I had blonde hair back then. And man, this was before kids. Oh my goodness. It all the memories come just surging back, and that is wine. And as a Christian, hey, Jesus' first miracle was water into wine. There's a reason why he chose water into wine. He didn't say water into vodka or water into beer. He chose wine. And wine has all these incredible memories that come running back to you. And it is an absolutely beautiful thing. And I love seeing that when people walk through the door, that they were there when they were little kids, their parents would bring them, and now they're drinking, and all these memories are coming back. It's just an awesome experience.
Speaking of the people walking through your door, where are these people actually coming from? Is it a lot of locals? Do you get a lot of tourism out there from around the country, or?
A little bit of both. We have some incredible customers that have been supporting us, especially during COVID, that, 30% of small businesses, of which we are, failed in New Jersey during COVID. They would bring us meals. And I'm talking Mrs. Castellano from an hour and a half away in North Jersey, and she's my mother's age, 89, makes the best lasagna and chicken parm that you would ever eat in your life. They would come from those distances. We have customers that are very supportive of that, but we also have an industry that supports the Six Flags amusement park, which is only 10 minutes from us. And then the industry in general, not only New Jersey, but Pennsylvania, Virginia, it is a agribusiness that is unlike any other. So we're driven by weather, and we're driven by, they want a good experience. And all I know is this: you will have a great experience with our team, because they share the same philosophy that my dad had, that I have. You got to be compassionate. You got to find out what kind of wines they like, or if they haven't consumed any wine, they never liked wine. I love that. When they haven't never consumed wine because they never liked the wine, I'm going to find something that you're going to like. That enthusiasm just goes right over to the customer, and they're a part of it. And odds are they're going to be a repeat customer if they live within an hour and a half ratio of the winery.
Yeah. I want to go back to one thing here on the different all the fruit wines and all the different perceptions, and especially your experience in the natural food business through Whole Foods. We've got the younger Gen Zs. Millennials are now older, but they're still younger than us. But the Gen Zs now, they've grown up in the craft beverage industry. They've grown up with, and they're introduced to alcohol with seltzers, hard seltzers, kombuchas, craft beers. I would think that actually you're in the exact perfect place to introduce them to wine, because they're more receptive to all these many different types of alcoholic drinks.
You totally nailed it, Drew. Absolutely, unequivocally. People who are drinking kombucha, of which one I am, craft brews, which I loved from the beginning when they started. I told my dad when he was alive, and I was in my late 20s, Dad, there was a microbrewery just opened up in Princeton. He goes, concentrate, Jerry, we're selling wine. But it took years. And let me tell you, those folks anybody who's going to a craft brewery, they're our customer, because then they can appreciate, they appreciate a stout infused with coconut or coffee. I make a blackberry wine steeped with organic coffee beans. What? You can, they will go, oh, I got to have that. I go, oh, I know you're going to have that, but you're not going to have that yet. You're going to taste our cocoa current with black currants and cocoa first. And then you're going to taste the coffee to finish your day. Instead of having a tiramisu at the end of the day with your dinner, no, you're going to have a nice glass of Java berry instead. When they taste it, I just know, we have them because they're in our wheelhouse, and they can appreciate small batches. And that's what we do. We couldn't do all the wines we do if we were a large winery. It is very difficult, Bianca and Drew, to be able to stay small, than to grow large 8 to 10% a year. Because I worked for many companies, and it was much easier having to be able to grow year in, year out, finding new customers. That's easy to do. Staying small and unique and craft is a lot more difficult. But you know what? You have these customers, like you just mentioned, that come in week in, week out, want to know what's new, what's different. And we took their lead because they're so unique. The ciders, the craft brews, they don't have them all the time. And I love that. I love that idea that, oh, darn it, I ran out. But, ooh, wait a minute, you have something new here? Let's try it. And when you try something, isn't it the best? I find that not only am I happy if somebody doesn't like it, now I know that they're not buying it because if they take it home and they don't like it, oh my goodness, I'd rather you taste it and not like it and then find something that you do like. Yes. Now you're not buying it on the label, you're buying it on taste. And that is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It is. I love how broad the horizons have gotten.
Oh my God.
They're so focused.
You're not kidding.
I love your passion.
Well, thank you. If you would have met my father, he was the same way, but his worst curse word was "gosh darn it all." I'm a little bit.
I could have learned a lot from him.
Yes, I learned a lot from him. I'm not as I'm a little bit more edgier, but yes, I did get my passion from my father. Yes.
So what is back to all these different wines you were talking about making, with espresso oil or coffee bean oil, and so what is like the shelf life on something like this? You can age cab wines, you can age cab for 20 plus years. How long's the shelf life on something like these?
Wines? You know what? I always like to tell people it's like a nouveau. Okay. White wines take a certain amount of months to age, develop, whether you want to put it in oak, 6 to 9 months, maybe a year. Reds could be 9 months, 12 months, year and a half if you want to put it in oak. But fruit wines, this is where my father was genius from beginning to end, just to make it about 3 months. Okay. Now when you're talking about you have a mortgage payment every month consistently, sitting only on a wine for 3 months is pretty darn good compared to 9 months to a year to 2 years, isn't it? And so the same concept in terms of how long it lasts. Generally, a fruit wine, 1.5 to 2 years tops, but it's meant to be consumed young.
Oh, so, totally. I just was more curious.
Although I did have a dry, a local person over here, Hungry Hawk Vineyards over in Temecula, they did a dry blueberry wine. He said he'd never do it again.
Yes.
And we keep asking because it was like a fine Pinot Noir. And I bought a case of it and I drank it over 4 years and it actually kept getting better.
See, and that puts Schitt's Creek to shame because they used to make fun of the blueberry, which I loved actually, that series. And when they talked about blueberry wine is great. And I know, and we did a blueberry in oak, in French oak. We preferred actually a Montmorency cherry in oak. And that's a sweet and sour cherry. So yes, you can take it and age it like a red grape, and it literally will blow your mind away. However, it's a little bit more difficult of a sell to the consumer when they come in. When they're thinking blueberry, they want to taste blueberry. But if you're aging it like a red, then it's wait a minute, I don't taste the blueberry. They probably will a little bit. So we like to kind of keep it mostly lightly sweet.
I like that.
However, I know our winemakers considering doing a couple things just to throw 50 gallons and have a limited release of something. So that, yes, you can play with all those things because it's available. And when you're small, you have the ability to pivot rather quickly. When people say, "Ooh, I would love a blueberry wine in oak." Oh my God. Yeah. And I'm sure it was great, but it's it's something you got to consider as you constantly are rolling out new wines. Yeah.
Yeah. As you're pushing the envelope and trying all these different combinations, is there anything was there any mistakes? Like, yeah, we're not doing that again.
I can remember my dad made banana wine before we opened up. And I would say this to people. I would ask, hey, let's have a raise of hands, especially if I have a crowd in front of me. Has anybody ever tasted banana wine? No. I said, well, my dad made it and it was god awful. And no, we'll never make a banana wine.
That's a shame. I love bananas.
I do too. Who doesn't? Right? So, it's always trial and error. You gotta see what you think you might like. Could it be good? And then you go down that road and you see what works and what doesn't. But I remember, and Dad made that banana wine. This was for our Pennsylvania winery back in 1978. So before they opened, he wanted to say, hey, this could be something interesting. And he tried it and it didn't work. And I remember, but it's a great story because, hey, if you don't try something, you will never know. And it's not only on the winemaking end of it, Drew and Bianca, but it's also on the consumer end. If you don't try, there's more to than just our Cabernets and our Sauvignon Blancs. There's so much more out there. Let's give it a shot, right?
I have my grandfather actually. So I grew up in St. Helena. Well, not St. I was born in Napa, but my grandfather, he was the stickler for red wines. And I can remember my mom worked at a winery and they were having like a big dinner, and they were pouring a dessert wine with the dessert. And he said to my mom, and she's like working and he's like, I'm not drinking this. And he's like, just try it, Jack. Like, just try it. Like, come on. It's just, and so it was like with something, and it was like a late harvest, and he took a sip and was like, holy crap. I don't think I can ever eat a dessert now without having this wine.
That's right.
It. He's like, I think actually I might just drink this for dessert instead of eating dessert.
Yes.
And we were like, and she's like, see, not going to know until you try it.
Exactly. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because my CEO, and he's my business partner in a previous business, we had a nutritional snack company, and we went and visited our producer of strawberries in Chile. And this was a fifth generation strawberry farm. So at the time, I wasn't working at the winery. My sister was running it at the time. But we brought a bottle of strawberry wine for him from New Jersey, from our winery. He had never had a wine ever from strawberries. He had strawberries in a wine, liquor with strawberries in the bottle, but never a wine.
Strawberry.
And he cried, I can't believe you can do this. And it's like, wow, it's been around for hundreds of years, but nobody ever thought of making that into wine. It was such an epiphany, and it was a great experience to see. But you, like your dad, if you didn't taste it, and then all of a sudden the light bulb goes on and goes, yes, yeah, because I'd rather not eat it. I'd rather have it in a glass. Yeah,
right.
Your dad, brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. So is the process of making the juice, with grapes, you're bringing in grapes, you're crushing them, you're de-stemming them. I mean, so when you're getting yours, it's already been pressed. It's already fresh juice. You're not having to do anything to it.
And so with some varieties, not for say like Niagara, which is a base for a lot of like our sangrias and whatnot. Our growers that we've been buying for actually over 40 years, because from our winery in Pennsylvania, they were just growers. So they weren't even crushing or pressing then. They would sell us the grapes. But over the last 50 years, they've evolved, and now they're crushing, pressing, turning it into juice, and then they can hold it for us. So just think back, harvest time was September, October, and all your money and all your work is done in that time. And plus, it's your busiest time of the year at that time. Now we can space it out throughout the entire year so that we can budget and know how many gallons that we're going to need for the year, and say, all right, we'll take 1,000 gallons this time, 1,000 gallons next. We can convert it into wine, and it's in juice form. Oh my goodness! Now our Cabernet Francs, our Chardonnay, no, we get them from growers in New Jersey. Now there's 60 wineries in New Jersey. We were the 7th. Wow. We didn't buy any grapes in New Jersey when we opened up. We had to buy them from Pennsylvania. So it's really evolved over the past 34 years. So some come in juice form, especially like our tropical fruits come in juice form. Some come in grapes. So it all varies, but it makes the workload a lot more efficient so that we can really plan accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, so because the juice, you're not set to the specific harvest time. You can actually keep a rolling cycle of creativity, really, and just constantly keep it going.
Well, because strawberries are in season at certain times, and blueberries are in season at certain times, and instead of where it's start to finish. All right, here we go.
Yeah, and here we go. And here we go. Correct. Yeah. It does, we look at it now and we're so fortunate that things, and thank God for the one thing that's constant is change, and change in that regard, especially for small wineries like us. We love that concept, and we pivoted because we saw the opportunities, and it makes it easier for everyone, especially as a company like us. We're a lifestyle company, and we don't want to be working until midnight, because all this stuff, guys, doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
we gotta rest. We got to enjoy our work, not endure our work. And with that in mind, we just gotta, take it and enjoy each step along the way. And if we can space it out throughout the year, God bless us. That's great.
Oh yeah. You mentioned it. The last I saw in my research, there was about 50. So there's wineries in New Jersey. It's up to 60 now. There's
10 more in the pipeline coming through. So yeah, it is happening. And what's great about that, I tell you, there's a huge winery 7 miles from us called Loretta Winery. They're just a wonderful winery. They have food truck wars. They'll bring 20, 30 food trucks. When they were about to open up, a couple years before they opened, they met my dad and they asked him, "Hey, would you mind us opening up a winery near you?" He goes, "Can you open it next door to us?" And the reason is, the more people can drink wine, the more people will come.
Sure.
And it's we never look ever look at another winery as competition. And I don't care how close they are. I don't care if it's just on the shelf at a liquor store, a wine shop. It is, wine consumption in America is good, but it isn't fantastic. And the more, the better. And to have a different experience at Loretta Winery than ours. And there's another beautiful little winery called Working Dog Winery. They do mostly estate bottled. It is all different experiences, all within a literally a 10-minute drive. So you can hit 3 different wineries, 3 different, completely different experiences, and you're going to have an enjoyable time in each one of them. So that, to me, it's like the water is warm in the pool. Everybody jump in.
And that rising tide floats all boats, because
you are not kidding. When I hear people say, "Oh, the competition," I go, I never looked at that in any company that I served. Never look at it as competition. This is a big arena. Let's enjoy each other, embrace each other, learn from each other, and we can really have a great time along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, now with 60, there's probably if you could guess, or if you could help define it, with 60 wineries, is New Jersey starting to develop its own kind of regional style or a regional character?
Yeah, first off, we're New Jersey. Okay, so New Jersey has a negative effect on people just because they think New Jersey. People outside of New Jersey think, "Oh, New Jersey." They're thinking they're flying into Newark. Okay. And that's what they see. But you just go 30 minutes north and you got an absolutely gorgeous area. You get out of the cities and it's just spectacular. And we are the Garden State for a reason. We are developing and we're getting a better name out there. And there's some phenomenal wineries and some winemakers out there that are literally, they'll be well known that they're doing such great things and growing that you just step back and in awe of what they're doing. So New Jersey, yes, we are coming along. We just have the name New Jersey that kind of puts a negative connotation in it, just because that's the way it is. But the marketing of people past and present that are doing a great job for the state of New Jersey. I think we'll overcome that. It probably was that way, say, for people in northern Italy. Maybe they thought, the wine's from northern Italy. Oh no, it just couldn't be that good. Or Barichetto from Parma area. Why would I ever want to drink that? It's too sweet. No, maybe they thought of that way back when. But we're such a young country. And our areas of the country that are growing, that I think wine snobbery in general, from no matter where it comes from, whether it's New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Texas, Oregon, California, it ultimately, hundreds of years from now, it won't matter. They'll go, oh, I love this wine from New Jersey. I love this wine from Texas. It won't matter anymore of where you are. Won't that be nice?
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
What would you say, like 100 years from now, and New Jersey is flourishing, there's 700 wineries in there. What do you think is there going to be like a varietal that kind of dominates the region that you think is going to win out? Or will it just be a case of diversity?
You know what I'm seeing a lot of? That's a great question. I'm seeing a lot of Cabernet Franc growing it. And I buy our Cabernet Franc from a small vineyard, and they're a small winery in New Jersey. I'm seeing it as the trendy wine that probably, and every New Jersey winery that I've tasted of their Cabernet Franc, I love them all. They're all great. So could it be that? I'm going to go with that. I love Cabernet Franc. It's just an amazing wine. And you don't see it much on the shelf yet. But it's been around before Cabernet Sauvignon. So, but for some reason, winemakers just used it as a blend, and it could stand on its own, just like, I don't know, let's just say Destiny's Child. Great music band, but Beyonce, she's got chops. Same thing with Cabernet Franc. It was great blending break, but
we drink a lot of it.
Yeah,
my wife's favorite region's Chinon, and the Cabernet Francs of the Loire.
Right.
And on the latitude, New Jersey kind of has that same sort of a little bit on that latitude line.
Right. Yep. You're right about that. And I think what you'll see is that, in my opinion. But hey, what do I know? I'm in my 60s. I who knows?
Well, you've prognosticated here. We'll have to check back and check back in 20 years.
That's great. Yeah.
Man. So Jared, you tell the story at the pre-show about your exercise routine in the tropical storm being the perfect drink.
Yeah, the perfect drink. Yeah. So actually, our winemaker, when he first made passion fruit, I just came back from a 10-mile run, and I had never even had passion fruit as a fruit. And he said, "Tell me what you think." And I drank it. I went, "This is the best recovery wine I ever drank in my entire life." And then he decides to blend it with mango as a separate wine and have it sparkling. And I went, "Oh my God." So I've got a couple of running buddies here in Pennsylvania that I run on Sundays after church. And that is what we have, is a bottle of Tropical Storm. It's got its electrolytes. It's got its natural sweetness. and you feel great after a long run. And we're like looking at each other like, man, this is a great day. So yeah, why not? Why can't you have wine as a recovery? Why can't you have wine in the morning? You were mentioning bruschetta. That's a lower alcohol wine. If you're going to have a wine in the morning, that's probably what I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend drinking in the morning. The productivity level, not so good. But yeah, there are wines for every single occasion, every part of the day. Yeah.
Especially the lower alcohol. And that's a huge growing category.
Unbelievable amount.
Well, that's why the seltzers are such a hit. They're 4.5%, 5% alcohol.
Yeah, it's manageable. It's manageable for people, and that's quite good. In fact, we make that sparkling bruschetto. It's called Fergie. And my late father-in-law, he was a retired farmer, and he gave us our tractor, which is called the Massey Ferguson tractor, and that sits out in the front of our winery as a memorial to him. And he was sweet and bubbly, and this is sweet and bubbly. Well, our bruschetta, we couldn't get enough one year. So we're like, oh my God, we have everybody hooked on this. So we made a Fergie 2.0, and that was with our fredonia grapes. So there was, it's not the same, but it was close enough for people to go, oh, I go 2.0. So it's not 5.5. It's 11% alcohol volume. It's a whole new game. And so you can adapt, you can pivot, but those grapes, they were not similar, but enough that they can get along and everybody should be able to get along. And even those grapes, for the palate and people who love that bruschetta grape, it was enough of a bridge to get them there.
Yeah. That was, the timing, I believe, is finally right now for these low alcohol. I was talking to Michael and Bonnie Houlihan of Barefoot Cellars. Right. And as they were growing their brand before they sold it, they did come out with a low alcohol wine. It was one of their biggest flops ever, because at the time, the wine consumers just thought they cut it with water, and they're only getting half as much of wine as they should be getting.
Yeah, that had to be years ago. I would guess consumers would be thinking that way. God almighty help us. That's great. Now, I'll be sharing that story, by the way. That's a great one.
Yeah, I asked them what kind of one of their biggest, like, what they would not do again. And the timing wasn't right then, but I think it's right now. And I think it's right with the product offering you guys are doing.
And plus you got to have a story behind it. And if you have a story behind every kind of wine, the consumer, if it's a believable story and it's got to be authentic, they're going to embrace it. And I'm a believer. Slow and steady wins the race. My daughter I always told that to my daughter, who hates running. And when she was growing up, and I said, slow and steady wins the race, Riley. And she said, Daddy, you never win the race. No, I never win the race. No, but in life's terms, slow and steady, we can win everybody over with consumption of wine, whether it's low alcohol, made from fruits that are aged in oak. You can do it. It's just, you got to have the right approach and be authentic and be honest. It's a beautiful thing, guys. It's a beautiful thing to watch unfold right before our very eyes. It's a wonderful time in this industry. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. And Jerry, as we're kind of winding down, is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to bring up?
Let's see. Anything that I'd like to talk about? Well, you know what? I think the most important thing is, especially for wine connoisseurs and people that want to learn more, have an open mind. Just like you have an open mind for food. Okay. My father always taught me that wine is food. So why should we be critical of somebody who likes Indian food or doesn't like Thai food? Or doesn't like Italian food? Well, everybody likes Italian food. We can't compare that. But yeah, why should we be critical of somebody who likes a sweet wine versus a dry wine? We should be open-minded, because we're all in this together. And I think, quite honestly, the wine industry is changing. Instead of having that kind of narrow-mindedness, it is changing eventually. And I think we're one of the pioneers to make that happen, because we all have a different taste and walk in life, and what we liked when we were younger, we may not like when we're older, but then all of a sudden you can still drink that, because wine is just that memory link that keeps us all together. It binds us. It's a glorious thing. So yes, if you were to ask me that, I would say, have an open mind, just like with food, with relationships, and in our walk, we'll all be better off for it.
That's a very, very good words of wisdom there.
Well, thank you there, Drew. I appreciate it. I love you guys.
Jerry, where can people find out more about you and Cream Ridge Winery?
Yeah, you can look at us on our website at www.creamridgewinery.com. We have a Facebook page as well as Instagram. I heard that's a very popular social media platform, and it's always a joy to have people come in to our place and learn a little bit about us. We're small, we're boutique, we make it fun, and if you're not having fun, then what are we doing, right?
That's too true. Very true. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Hey, well, listen, it was great seeing you guys face to face. God bless you both, and have a great day. All right.
You too.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.